Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. So welcome. So today we have Myron Miller as our guest. So Myron, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself?
How you doing? Thanks for having me, Laura. A little bit about myself. I've spent the past 30 years mainly in construction and real estate development as an entrepreneur, owner of multiple companies along the way. And I've spent the past 2 years now kind of changing focus and dedicating my time to coaching young adults, helping them identify their goals and set goals and be able to actually obtain their goals and, help be a mentor to guide them and direct them in a path of success.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. And as you know, this show is for moms, but I brought you in just because you are so experienced as a dad you have 5 daughters. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit more about how you got into coaching. And specifically, I know your kind of target audience is adolescent boys, kind of 16 through mid-20s, young adult men. So tell us how you kind of got into that.
Well, I was blessed to have a very, very loving and caring father and grandfathers that poured a lot of time and energy into me. And 5 years ago, I lost my father. And, I was thinking about how do I take the information, the time, and the effort that they poured into me and be able to pass that forward and pay it forward. Mm-hmm. And that's when I came up to start doing coaching and to just help mentoring, young men to try to help them, give them some of the insights, the wisdom that was passed to me to where that information continues to move forward and bless others as it goes.
Mm-hmm. And so you kind of like your initial kind of entry into that as far as who you were speaking with were, like, for example, some of your daughter's boyfriends and other kind of guy friends that were coming around the house. So you just got to have a lot of personal interaction with guys this age, right?
I did. And my daughters now are 10 to 27 years old. And so I've seen a wide range of boys and girls, here at the house and at different places and, events with them and talking with them and just kind of interacting with them. It's them and friends and other colleagues as well. It's just there's a lot of lack in, having that positive role model and a mentoring mindset to actually coach and guide, young people to transition from being a child and an adolescent into, adult world and into the working world and careers and all those paths. And it's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that's taught at the universities. And I actually am working with some of the local universities because they don't have anything like that. And all the professors I talked to there were like, yes, we need this. This is exactly what we need, because I did a few intern programs with the local university here, Northern Kentucky University. And that was one of the big things that they were having a problem with was the students weren't able to make that transition from college to career easy. It was always stressful. It was always difficult. They got overwhelmed. They didn't know how to do interviews, how to write a resume, or a lot of them didn't even know what they wanted to do. And they, they're in year 3 of a degree, and I'm talking with them. I was like, so why do you want to be an engineer? And they're like, I don't know. I thought it was a good path and supposedly it pays good. So they're going for a paycheck, not a passion. That never really ends up well.
So, as this relates to my audience, what I'm thinking of is, you would like the idea of being a parent, a mom or dad who is having these conversations with your kids, kind of leading them and guiding them. But what I'm hearing kind of, in my mind is that a lot of times teachers and young adults don't necessarily want to hear advice from their parents. And so I'm like really curious about this idea of a positive role model, the way you've researched it and what you've developed for your business. for these young people so that they're getting some really great, support and advice, but it's not necessarily coming from their parents, but that it's still a really positive resource. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, the parents can even play a positive role. Like one of the guys that I've worked with, he went through, he got got a 5-year degree in 3 years, graduated top of his class as an engineer, and he was miserable. And I was talking with him. I was like, well, why did you choose engineering? He's like, well, I was talking with my mom and dad, and they were guiding me and helped me along the way. And it's not anything the parents did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of this, child or young adult, whatever, not being able to express what they like, what they enjoy, and just taking their parents' advice and kind of going with it blindly, not knowing how to even figure out what their passion is. So even if you have the best parents and the best intentions, you can still end up with a degree and in a job that it's not really your passion.
Yeah. So I've heard you say the word passion multiple times now, and I'm very passionate about the idea of passion for kids and teenagers and all ages, really, because that's where really the energy comes from to do what you want to do. And so it doesn't feel like you're, pursuing something that doesn't interest you, doesn't excite you, and doesn't make you want to pull your hair out every day. So tell us more about this concept of passion, because you seem to be passionate about that.
Well, I was lucky to be one of those people that knew at a young age what I wanted to do. And, I went after it. I saw that I wanted to be an architect, and that's the path I went. Most of my friends I went to school with and different people don't even work in the career that their degrees are in. And I would venture to say there's a large portion of the population that has a degree they don't even use anymore. And it's trying to figure out what that is early enough to where you can either get a degree in what you really want, or find out the degree you're headed towards is not what you want. And sometimes it's just as simple as sitting down and having a conversation of asking them, what do you want? What really do you want to do? And, what makes you happy? And nobody ever really has that conversation really that much, surprisingly.
It makes sense, because kind of being in the thick of it with teenagers right now, with my clients and my own kids, kind of what we're in the process of is, are we making good grades? Are we starting the college test taking process? Are we looking at the right schools? It's kind of like that next step is really the decision of where you want to go, but it doesn't always equate to thinking out more long term. Even though we might say, oh, well, this school is good for that, this school is good for that, but maybe we're not spending as much time focusing on guiding them towards this long-term idea of their goals, which is, I always say that where these three things intersect: your passions, your gifts, and your personality. Right there in the middle is where you should be spending as much time as possible, because that is where you'll make the biggest impact on the world, and you'll be able to just kind of feel like you're working, but it's not. It just feels so great to be invigorated and excited and enthusiastic about pursuing whatever that is. Does that resonate with you?
It does completely. And one of the things I run into a lot now is with the access to so much information, everything's at your fingertips. It's almost overwhelming to figure out what you do like. And, because there's so many options now of, everything is literally in your pocket on your phone. You can look up and find anything on there. And it's so easy to access so much information. Sometimes it just becomes overwhelming on which direction to even go.
That's actually a really great point. And it's something I'm currently working on with a teenage boy client, a 17-year-old. He says he had a free day. He had Sunday last week free. And he said he just didn't know what to do with himself. He said, I just started driving. He goes, I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's like he said he couldn't make up his mind because he didn't have what I described to him as the decision-making muscle. He didn't have that built to know himself in as far as what he wanted to spend his day doing. And so we're kind of practicing that skill of like getting to know himself, like figuring out who he is, what he likes, what he wants to do. It's just like his life had been so structured prior to that and so planned out every minute basically of every day. And then all of a sudden he randomly had this free day and he's like, I had no idea what to do with myself. And so I'm like thinking of that, and it almost reminds me of what you're just saying. Like we have so many options and so much information just at your fingertips that it's hard for a teenager to kind of read through that and decipher through that, right?
Yeah. And we get so much unconscious information that we don't realize we're getting every day through our phones, through TV, through radio, that almost guide you in a direction that you don't even realize you're being directed into. You know, whether you're scrolling on social media and all the different things that pop up on there, or you're watching TV or listening to the radio or music or anything like that, there's so much influence that just comes from that sets your subconscious mind into a pattern of whatever you've been watching or listening to where sometimes it's better off. I try to talk my clients into, you know, the first hour of your day, don't even turn your phone on. Just leave it down for the first hour you're awake. You know, get up, get your day started, and figure out what you're doing for the day before you turn the phone on and let your phone tell you what you're going to do today, or tell you how you're going to feel today, or what you're going to think today. You know, do it yourself. Use your own brain, your own mind to really set your day in the direction you want it to go, versus having it directed for you by a computer or, you know, outside influences.
That is a really great thought, because I know we all are kind of an autopilot, and I can see how that would, you know, setting technology aside, it forces your brain, your prefrontal cortex, to come online and say, okay, what decisions do I need to make? What do I want to do? How do I want my day to go? Asking yourself all those questions instead of just kind of, you know, being mindless about it, right?
I mean, how many times have the first thing you did, you got up, you look at a phone, and there's an email of something that you didn't want to see first thing, and then your day is already sideways the rest of the day just because that's the way it started.
Totally.
You set your day up on a positive mindset. You plan it out the way you want it. You know, you've already got a plan set. Then you can turn your phone on, and then your brain is already running and can handle whatever's coming in better than just this massive overload. As soon as you wake up, you turn your phone on.
I feel like that's such great advice for anybody, really, any age.
Yeah.
So getting back to the concept of role models and positive role models, especially for, you know, this age group. And, you know, I know you specifically, you know, target working with boys, but girls can 100% benefit from this concept as well. But tell me more about, I know you have some research that like kind of gives evidence about why this is important. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, and it's funny, your TV show is directed to moms, and I would say over a third of the people that contact me are moms wanting advice or wanting to work with their kids. So it kind of is a really good fit. But as far as a role model goes, you know, kids, when they're very small, adolescent age, they're very, very influential, and they're looking for a role model. Whether you realize it or not, they realize it or not, they're looking for a role model. And if we don't provide one for them, they're going to find one. Whether it's, you know, a movie star, a singer, a social media influencer, which there's nothing wrong with any of those. But what control do you have over your children's influence that they're getting? You can control it somewhat, yes. But there was the National Literacy Trust did a study, and over 50% of the kids asked who their role model were social media influencers. And they did a study, and albeit you can have positive role models that are actors or sports figures or influencers, not having that personal one-on-one interaction with the role model that you choose degrades what you gain from them by 75%.
Oh.
To whereas if you have somebody that you can actually communicate with, ask questions, or even just watch them and mimic what they're doing, on a day-to-day basis has so much higher impact. Because they're going to find a role model. Is it going to be a positive role model, negative role model? Who knows? One way or the other, they're going to find one. Whichever they choose, that's the path they're going to follow, because that's what we do as kids. We model the people that we look up to. And people that have a positive role model, studies have shown they have better communication skills. They have better conflict resolution skills, as far as if there's a problem or anything to interact with other people. If they've had a positive one-on-one interaction with a role model, they have a better ability to do that. Their general health is better. Their reading and school grades are better. Exercise is, if the person that they choose as a role model is somebody that exercises and eats right, the odds are that the kid following them are going to do the same thing. I mean, you always heard the saying, do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work, because they're going to model what you're doing. I mean, if you come home and sit on the couch and eat a box of Twinkies, don't get me wrong, everybody likes Twinkies, but if that's what you do every day, the odds of them doing the same thing they're going to follow what they see. And there's a study done by University of Virginia, Charlottesville, and in conjunction with University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, that, a positive female role model for children, they have a higher and a better psychological well-being. They have a positive male role model. They have a better scholastic outcome and better health and physical outcome. And those are just the two difference. And this goes for your moms, regardless of that, a female role model, preferably the mother, has a higher impact on the child than anybody else does.
That's amazing.
And whether gender doesn't really play a part in that, whether it's a boy or a girl, but the mom, if she is active and being a role model position, has a better and higher influence and impact on the child than anybody else. That's number one. Number two is the dad, and having the dad, the male influence and role model, is right up there with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's why I do the show, to be quite honest, because I know the power and the influence that as moms we have over our kids. And so, I do work with teenagers, but one way to help the teenagers is by helping the moms and supporting them and encouraging them and kind of strengthening their mental health and their, positive expectancy, and just, the physical part, just kind of the whole being, the mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all those things. And yes, I have some similar studies out of England that we're talking about how the number one influence on a teenager's mental health is directly correlated to the mom's mental health. So I completely support that. And so what I'm hearing from you is that really the top role models in our kids' lives are us, the parents. But outside of that, it's great to have other positive people as well. And I can think of some specific examples with my own kids. I know one summer, my kids used to go to summer camp, like sleepaway camp. And there was one counselor that one of my sons had one time that made the biggest impact on my son. And just spending 2 weeks with that counselor really changed my kid's life. And really, he talked about him. He said, this is what he said to me. This is what we talked about. He told me about some of the really private conversations that they had. And I just realized how important and special that was to have that male role model for my younger son at the time. So I'm a huge advocate of this. And so how do you guide your kids to make sure that the person that they are, having as their role model is a positive one? Because so much, they get influenced by music and, what's cool, and, oh, this video game is cool, or this is cool, right? And so it's like, a lot of times that's real negative influences. And so it's pretty hard to come in and say, hey, we got to find someone more positive for you. Teenagers will just be like, that's stupid, mom. I don't want to hear that. Right. Like, it's kind of like everything that I suggest to teenagers it kind of has to be their idea. You somehow have to plant a seed or place it so that they can go towards it instead of you pushing it towards them. You know what I mean? So how could you like gently, give this idea to a teenager?
Well, about 10% of people will do what you tell them to do, but 90% will do what they tell themselves to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a challenge, and I commend moms. My wife, I don't know how she does it. You all have some magical superpower of being a mom, because you handle so many different tasks and so many different things all at once, and you don't go crazy. But two of the main things is, one, you're not there to be your kid's friend, you're their parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard one to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very fine line, and it's a struggle to be a parent and not be a friend, but also have a relationship with your kids. And I always try to find a way to interact to where it's something that's engaging for them and something that is at least enjoyable. It doesn't have to be fun, but I mean, even the hardest things, whether it's doing chores or working around the house or anything,
Mm-hmm.
you can always make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, when her and the girls are like cleaning the house and whatever, they turn on music and they're laughing and dancing around the house and all that, but they're cleaning and doing work at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find a way to make it interactive to where you're interacting with them, you can make it fun, but still accomplish the main goal that you're trying to do. You'll have a lot more impact and a lot more interaction with your kids that way, versus just say, nope, I got this guy, he's going to be a great influence to you, and you're going to go see him. You're going to hang out with him, and you're going to love him, and you're going to be. It doesn't work that way, because they're just going to, even if they go, they're just going to be totally shut off the whole time.
Right.
And it's going to turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly that. So, which is why when I do meet with potential clients, I always do a meeting with the parents, and then I meet with the teenagers, and I tell them they have full veto power. If they don't like me, if they don't want to work with me, that is totally, the ball is in their court, and I let them know, because I want it to come from them. I want it to be their idea. And so what else, can we do to keep these positive influences going, but not be so kind of direct and in your face?
One easy way to do it is find out what your kid is actually interested in. Is it sports? Is it music? Is it dance? Is it, there's 1,000 different things out there. Find something that they're interested in, and then because even as parents, you still need outside influence and outside role models, so they get that interaction with other people and can interact with other people besides you once they grow up and leave. So if it's sports they're into, then go talk to the coaches of the teams to find out, is it a good fit? Is that somebody that you want your kid modeling and being influenced by? And then once it's something the kid wants to do and enjoys doing, and that the adult influence that's coming on the other side is something that aligns with your values and your beliefs. So a lot of people don't realize you can interview the coaches or the instructors or the teachers or whatever. You can go talk to them and say, hey, I want to bring my kid here to play soccer. Can we have a conversation just so I know what your guidelines are, what your rules, how do you coach? Are you a drill sergeant when you're coaching? Are you everybody gets to play, and everybody doesn't matter if we win or lose, it's just if we have fun playing the game, and whichever in that gamut aligns with your beliefs, then you just find the right fit for your kid with the coach and or whoever it is, to where you get that positive influence outside of the home that doesn't have to be you.
I absolutely love that idea. I'm not sure many people really do that, but I think it's a great idea. And I think that, the idea should be spread a little bit more about that. I have one friend who, her daughter's a volleyball player in high school. And unfortunately, the high school volleyball coach runs the team in a way that my friend doesn't approve of. So she does weigh-ins for the girls, which in my personal opinion, I can't think of a more unhealthy thing to do for a teenage girl who is already body conscious. The last thing we need to do is, be looking at a number on a scale and be logging that each week. So she said, nope, we're not going to do this. My daughter is not playing volleyball here for the school. So she's doing a private volleyball team. And I really commend my friend for making that decision, because she did find out what was going on with the team, said that's not a good influence on my daughter. We're not going to do that. We're out of here. So I thought that was a great idea. But I love the idea of, just kind of speaking with these people. Who are they? How are you influencing my kid? And it doesn't mean, we're, putting you on, interviewing you, but it's more of just let's have an open dialogue. Let's have an open conversation. Let's work together as a team, because we're all here for the same reason. We're all trying to help our kids, right?
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk about the impact of outside role models in a negative way,
mm-hmm.
Part of that study is outside role models like sports, actors, singers, social media influencers. Kids that had those as their main role model in this study, 52% had a higher odds of smoking, 40% had higher odds of marijuana use, and 56% had a higher odds of being involved in violence. And I know with our kids, we watch what they're doing online and, social media and all of that kind of stuff. But even with all the parental controls and everything, the algorithms and all that stuff is set up, you can't stop it all.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know everything that they're seeing on that little screen that they're sitting in their room looking at the screen. So what influences are coming in through that?
Mm-hmm.
And is it positive? Is it negative? Is it good and heading in the direction that you want your children to go? Or is it something totally different that you don't even want them to be involved with, that we don't know about,
Mm-hmm.
And one of the worst things is to find out that, your kid's been following this person online or doing different things and taking them down a path that you had no idea they were even going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, technology is a great thing, but it's something that it has to be monitored. You have to know what's coming in, because whatever comes in comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we have to do as parents. And sometimes the kids don't like it, but again, we're not there to be their friend. We want to have a good relationship with them. We want to enjoy and have fun with them. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to make sure that what the good beliefs and whatever we want to instill in them actually get put in place, and not sidetracked or derailed by something that's just happening on a tablet or a phone or something that we're not aware of.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because there is such this fine line of, there's the parents who are completely checked out and they have no idea and they don't even know and they don't care and it's just too much hassle. Then there's the opposite end of the spectrum, which I know a few parents who are just the hyper vigilant, hyper controlling, totally obsessed with checking every single thing and checking grades and checking their phone. And I honestly think that is also a disservice, right? Like, I do believe in being the parent and not the friend 100%, but there becomes a time where it's all of a sudden it's a police state that you're raising your kid. And that is, to me, just as unhealthy or negative as the parent who's completely checked out and not paying attention at all, because kids will always find a way. If they want to see something, they're going to find a way. No matter how much controls, they'll use their friend's phone. They'll use a different, source of information that you'll never be able to figure it out. And B, it's really not teaching your teenager the skills, the executive function skills, to make those decisions for themselves. Like, is this good? Is this not good? Because if my parents are always deciding for me, I never have the chance to make that decision for myself, right?
Exactly. They have to be able. It all boils down to instilling values in your kids at an early age, to where as they get older and the possibilities of them being exposed to different things, they have the ability and the discernment to know, yes, that's right. No, it's not. Yes, I should do that. No, I shouldn't. Yes, I should listen and follow this person. No, I shouldn't. And you just have to give them guidance along the way. And the older they get, you have to let go of the reins a little bit along the way, and it's really hard. I know 5 daughters. I mean, really, I've got a whole collection of guns and everything and stuff like that. It's like, boy comes over, like, hey, come over here. We need to look at this cabinet over here. But it's you got to let go of the reins and just know that you did your job when they were small to where they're going to go and follow the right path that they need to do. And sometimes they don't. And sometimes the harder you push to fix it, the worse you make it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just have to let them fall. Let them, they've got to make mistakes, and just be there to love them and pick up the pieces and put it all back together and move forward after it's over. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nothing a parent ever wants to do, but sometimes we have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that what you just said is just like spot on with my beliefs about parenting as well. And I'm so glad you brought up the idea of values, because what that made me think of is we work so hard to try to teach them and show them the right way. And what we're talking about is sometimes, teenagers, they don't want to hear it from their parents, or they want to rebel because that's their nature. That's their job to kind of figure out who they are and their own identity and what they want. But what's cool is that it always comes back. So like I have my parents' voices in my head with the things they taught me. And I might have ignored them for probably 10 years, those voices, maybe longer. But now I'm obviously an adult, and I can hear my dad, saying something to me about driving at night, or don't ever pull over on the side of the highway because that's dangerous, or I hear my mom's voice about, something with cooking or food or meal planning, right? Because the things that they taught me. And so for the parents who are in the thick of it right now with the teenage rebellion stuff going on, some encouragement I like to give them is that maybe they're doing that right now, but they're still hearing you. And just because they're not doing what you want them to do doesn't mean they're not going to do it someday. So like one of my best examples of that is kind of like teenagers are obsessed with junk food. They love junk food. They love it. They love it so much, just unhealthy stuff. And I have lots of clients whose parents were very frustrated by their kids' eating habits. And so I said, you know what, all you can do is just keep showing them, keep being the role model for this is healthy. This makes my body feel good. This is nourishing for me. This gives me energy, because I don't want to ever focus on weight, especially for girls. And so I said, maybe right now they're eating those, Cheetos and energy drinks, but they will remember everything you've taught them. And when they're someday in their 20s and 30s, it'll come back. Oh yeah, I should be, making a healthy meal. I should, right? All the things that they were taught. What are your thoughts about that?
2 thoughts. One, as the parent, you control a large portion of what food comes in the house.
Well, true.
So whatever you buy at the grocery store is what's available to eat at home. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get into the teenage years and different things like that, they're going to be out on their own, and they're going to buy whatever they want to buy.
Exactly.
And, sometimes that's where you got to let them do the hard part and find out for themselves of, you eat all that junk food and you're going to feel like crap. Sometimes, and it just doesn't. You drink a bunch of energy drinks, and it makes you have a crash afterwards, and you're down and just feeling groggy and all that. And those are things that we just have to learn on our own. I mean, I know I learned that myself in college. I left home and I was like, yes, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. And I was living off of junk food and everything else. And then 30 pounds later, it's like, wait a minute. Something's not right here. Right. Maybe mama's right. I don't need to eat this crap all the time. But that's where the values come in.
Yeah.
And just instilling that at a young age, leading by example. If you don't have junk food at home, and you have healthy food at home, and you have snacks at home that they can snack on that are good and healthy for you, they're going to remember that. And they're, whether they come completely back to it, but it's still in there.
Exactly.
And it's that's the biggest thing, is just leading by example. It's hard for a kid to understand why they have to do something if you're not doing it.
Totally. And this conversation, I could really bring in another direction. So maybe we'll do that for 1 second. I also think that's true with, like, I don't want to talk about drugs so much, but more like the alcohol, right? So there's those parents who are kind of the party parents, and they're drinking alcohol every single day in front of their kids. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against alcohol. I love to have a glass of wine while I'm cooking or with dinner or something like that. But then they wonder why their teenagers, get really kind of hardcore down into that avenue. It's like, well, maybe they were watching you all those years when you thought they weren't paying attention. They were like, oh, well, mom does it, dad does it, so I'm okay to do that, right? What are your thoughts about
it? Alcohol, drugs, smoking, it's all the same, whether it's those things or whether it's the food you eat or how you interact with people, how you handle conflict. It's all the same thing. You're leading by example, whether it's what you say, what you do, how you act, what you eat, what you drink, what you smoke, any of those things. If you're doing it, you're telling your kids it's okay for them to do it too.
That's so true. Just that concept of modeling. It's like we can't explain that enough, that is how important that is, that they're literally just absorbing everything that you're doing. So
I'm going to pause my conversation with Myron Miller. If you'd like to hear more, listen to the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.